Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Road to Radical Visibility. My name is Rachel Freemon Sowers, also known as the Breakthrough Bitch, because I am passionate about helping people in the LGBTQ+, neurodiverse, and female communities break through the things to help them become more bold in the expression of themselves, their mission, and their truth in business and in life. And today's show is going to be good. If you're looking at the screen, you already see my guest, but I need to tell you a few things about her before we start. So, funny story that happens to me often. My guest and I met through the big TT. And if you don't know, that is TikTok, which I love this platform. You can make sure to follow my guest and myself on TikTok. However, I want to just talk about the synchronicity that happens in life when we open ourselves up to being the way that we want to be and interacting the way we want to interact. I received an email from my guest and it says, "Oh my gosh, I think we're twins." And I was like, "I think we might be too." And it's like, we're doing this all through email. And of course, as you all know, I'm kind of freakish and excited and things like that. And I was like, well, I'm going to dig a little deeper because these things don't just happen for no reason. And I am so glad that I can fully trust myself, fully know myself, and going into the direction of checking out my guests and really finding this remarkable person that is in a different geographical area, which is what I love about being online, but also so many similarities as women, as humans, as people on this earth, just wanting to make a positive impact. So my guest today is an author and a writer and is currently working as a ghostwriter for parkbench.com. And she lives in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Listen to this because now you're going to know why she's on my show. I'm just saying. She is a no nonsense, shoot from the hip, no frills, and no bullshit kind of gal. Any of that sound familiar? That is right. She says it like it is and doesn't look into the rearview mirror. She doesn't break the rules. She just makes up her own. Anybody else raising your hand? Just saying. She has a take no prisoners approach to life, which has been her best ally and her worst enemy at times. She hopes that her writing will captivate, intrigue, and stir creation. Will you please help me welcome my guest, Shauna Baty? Welcome.
Just hands.
So if you're wondering how this episode's gonna go, it's gonna go like this.
Yes, it is.
Because it's so amazing when we actually do the things we're led to do. And I would assume that you were led to reach out to me for whatever reason.
Yes. Yeah. I thought my partner put a video of me on TikTok without telling me until I sort of looked a little closer. I'm like, no, that's not me. And then it's like, I have a sister from another mister. And that's right. It's like, so then of course, go into your bio, see your email, send you some pictures. Here you go.
Random stranger here, see these pictures of me.
Yeah. I mean, if you had asked me 10 years ago, would I do that? Probably not. But I'm doing it. There's no apologies.
Well, we were talking before the show and how I'm turning 50 this next month, how you are in that age group already and how freeing it is. You know, I was saying at 40, people are like, I don't give a fuck. I don't have fucks. Oh, if you have littles around, this episode is probably going to contain some language. I'll put it in the description below. So hopefully you can monitor. But like when you're 40, it's like, I don't have any more F's to give. And you're really trying to proclaim that and own it. And at 50, I feel like it's just flowing. Like I don't have to claim it. I own it all day long. I'm walking around just knowing exactly how I want to be living and interacting in the world.
Yeah, it's basically you no longer give a fuck about not giving fucks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's behind you.
Yes. So, I mean, this all leads into, as you know, what I do and really empowering and wanting to encourage and inspire people to become radically visible, whatever that means. And so the first question I always ask my guests is, what does radical visibility mean to you?
Fabulous question. If you break it into two separate words, they have very, very different meanings until you put them together.
This is going to be so good. Listen up, peeps.
Oh, you're setting me up.
Truth bomb dropping. I can feel it. I feel it coming.
For me, radical could simply be, a group of atoms, which is a chemical derivative of that. And visibility is one of the 5 senses that we have. So when you put them together, I've sort of come up with something that resonates with me is reform or changing the senses. So it is about, for me, it's not changing the questions, it's changing the answers to those questions. So, if we go back 30, 40, 50 years, LGBTQ group was loosely affiliated, things were extremely difficult back then. And we still have difficulties today, but I think we're providing better answers. Same questions are still in. And I think the radical visibility is about reforming those senses.
I love that definition. And I love that it's so, again, it always is amazing to me how it means something different to everyone. But what you're saying is this, I see this correlation. It means something different to everyone, but it really is how that person is bringing the answers to themselves in their own lives. Right.
Yes. Right.
And when we're talking about LGBTQ plus people, it has been really difficult, and it does continue to be difficult. I'm not going to minimize that, especially here in the States with all the bullshit that's going on in Idaho, that's going on in Florida, that's going on in Texas. I mean, it's insane. However, it's how we are showing up in our own lives.
Right.
And that answer that we're bringing, because we know the answers for us.
Yes.
Like, it's like, when you know the answers for you, you bring something totally different and so much more powerful and potent and beautiful into the world.
100%. Right. Yeah. And I think the biggest role that I can play now, I have an 18-year-old son growing up with basically 2.5 moms. And, giving him and allowing him to have his answers, because then he'll be questioned throughout his whole life about that. But it's been a real pleasure, because initially it was like, oh, you shouldn't have a baby because ABC.
Yes.
And yes, the word God did enter into those conversations, which I'm sorry, I don't have time for those conversations. But anyway, this will happen to you. This will happen. What about him? What, like, you're being selfish, you're being this, you're being that. And like, I'm just like every other mom who just wants to love and adore my son and have a great life. And, turning 18, graduating, he's just like, looking back on his experience, he's like, I really haven't had any challenges. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah. But I love watching this generation of kids, because they're so far more accepting. Like you and I, our generation and the generation just below us, we're paving the way, we're making some strides. But that, I really believe that generation, whatever it is, Y now, Generation Y.
I have no idea.
I don't even know what it is. Z. We have to start all over again at the beginning of the alphabet. But I think they're the ones that are going to really make the changes that we need. That particular group, the 18 to 25-year-olds, because I think they're learning about not giving a fuck really early.
Yes. And I think that's causing a lot of issues for some older generation, even our generation at times. Yep. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not a part of that. Like, whoa, it's sometimes shocking to me. But if we look at the way that we have been raised up in the world, that we have been taught is our belief system, what we have been taught is the right or the wrong thing or whatever that is. And honestly, to self-shame ourselves into normalization when self-shaming becomes normal, which is what I believe it has. The younger generations are rejecting all of it. And I do truly believe that that's when things start to flip and they start to turn over. And, all of us will learn the lessons we're supposed to learn in life, and they will too. And yet I agree with you that it's beautiful to see. And yet for some people still too, it's pretty shocking. Be like, how could you claim that? How could you do that? And a lot of our generation has been wanting to claim some of those things, but don't know how.
Right.
It comes in is how we interact in the world with our friends, how we interact in the world with our communities, how we interact in the world with our families. I mean, even now, in my family, there is still discrimination against LGBTQ plus people, with religion, and I have had religious trauma. So it's really defining how we want to be showing up and who we have around us.
Right.
To begin to allow those things to happen for us to fully be ourselves.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's quite cathartic once you get through it. And you never actually get through it. It's just constantly transforming. So, talk about the word, change. You mentioned the word change and transform. And that's what we human beings are. Like, even on a physical basis, our bodies change every 7 years. Every single cell, molecule on our body, hair fall, everything changes every 7 years. So we are literally and figuratively different people than we were 7 years ago, 10 years ago when we were born. And that's what it's about. It's not staying the same. Dry white toast doesn't make it anymore. Like,
no.
Nope.
It's got to be some like avocado with some of that everything bagel topping on it.
Vinegar. Yeah. Maybe some pea shoots. Yeah.
Pickled onions and radish.
Pickled onions. Hello.
Oh,
Did
okay.
somebody say pickled onions? Gotta go. Yeah. Yes, you did.
I did. So I feel like there's a lot of fear that's built into us about change and transforming, and how we link our identity or what we do, it turns into our identity. And our identity then turns into who we either attract or who we are attracted to as friends, as partners, as whatever. And being kind of stuck in a system, and I'm going to say it like that, being stuck in this system that tells you if you do these things, you can have this life. And then when you get to a certain point in life, you don't have that life. And oftentimes we don't recognize that life.
Yes.
So there have been lots of things that need to be let go of in order for us to have this growth and embrace the growth as something that's beautiful. And not so much as something that's always so painful. But the pain can be really evident when here we go, just be ready, when we're going to weed through some of these things. So if you didn't catch that there, just know that Shauna has written a book, and it's called Weed Your Garden. And I know it's super cheesy, but that's what you come to expect on the show. Cheesy, authentic, raw, real, whatever.
Cheese is good.
And I feel like this part is something that so many LGBTQ plus people struggle with, because we don't have a lot of it anyway.
Yeah, right. There's very few references. Even as I was writing my book, I published it a couple of years ago, but I think I started writing it 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago, because there's a catalytic point that started me writing it. But I would go online and I'm like, wow, there's not that many references here, so I'm just going to make this up.
Well, and
I did.
Yeah, in my own personal life, even now, I mean, things still continue to happen to me in different ways that are discriminatory, that are all of those things that I don't really enjoy. And yet we take it on as, well, we have to keep these people, we have to keep this way of being in our lives, because if I don't, then I won't have anything.
Right.
And there's this one part of the book, and it's called Run, Forest Run, which I love that. And it's about, for me, that really touches how so many times I was afraid to give up relationships and just said, well, it's good enough. At least they love me this much.
You're hanging on for dear life to that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And how we're taught to do that, because we're not supposed to, I don't know what you call it, where you're not supposed to leave the people that have cared for you or that have done something for you. Like, they've done this for you, so you should do this for them.
It's almost like an unwritten obligation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's huge in the religious world too. Like, this is your elder, this is how you're supposed to treat them, even if they are
Right.
abusing you, even if they do emotionally abuse you, physically, sexually, whatever, like you're supposed to respect them. And that never rang true for me. That I was like, that doesn't make any sense. How do I respect someone that treats me like this, but I'm supposed to do this? And then, like, so that do unto, do as I say, don't do as I do, or whatever. Like, I hate that. Like that really brings up some anger in me. I'm just going to be real about that.
Yeah. And, it's, the book is about why. It's the why to guide. There's tens of thousands of how to guides out there, but this is why. Read Your Gardens about like, why should you eliminate toxic people out of your life? What's the purpose? What's the why? And for myself, this was really a very cathartic exercise that started when I left my ex of 21 years. And, we had a 13-year-old son. And so it was a difficult decision to make, although I'd made the decision many years prior, but I just didn't do the action. And you need to put them together or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I started about just writing some thoughts and feelings down, just journaling, just putting it on paper really sort of gets it out there for you. And then you start to look and you're like, hey, this is forming into something. And then it becomes something like, well, maybe this could help other people. And, some of the feedback I've received over the last couple of years is it really has. One most recent one, which is a bit of a surprise. She texted me, she says, I read your book, and she goes, I left my husband. I'm like, what? Okay. I hope there's no liability, but, but it, she said, no, you just, I realized how toxic he was for me and what I needed to do to get away from that. And I've had other similar stories to that. And, people always question me, well, what about family? What about family? I'm like, what about family? Like, is there a question in there, or is there like, ask me the real question?
Yeah.
And, and yes, you can weed family from your garden if they are toxic. You've got to eliminate that. You got to pull them up from the tap root and get rid of them, because they're just going to creep back in the spring and come back up again. And, and so it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I've personally done it. I've done it. And I have felt peace because of it. Initially it's traumatic.
Yes.
And then the rest of your family is looking at you like, what? And then your partner's like, huh? And then, but it was necessary. It is necessary. And, if you can create your own tribe, I've mentioned that in the book, it's about creating your own tribe with being deliberate about it, with intention.
Yeah.
And I live in part of Canada, which is very conservative, which is, you're probably going, oh, Canada's so liberal. And we really are. We really are. Comparatively speaking, I will say. But, we still live in this rather conservative province. And my partner and I are moving to a very liberal province, British Columbia, in a couple of months for lots of reasons. But one of them I said to her is like, I can't wait to meet new people. I can't wait to just start over, start fresh. I'm definitely going to be missing a few people from, my hometown. I was born and raised here, right? So, but true friends never leave you and you never leave them. So, but it's just going to be refreshing. And we have a tribe and we've already been meeting people, and I'm just so excited for that.
Well, that was like one of the things that we connected with too, because as you know, my partner and I are moving up towards the Seattle area next spring. And it's like,
neighbors.
I know. Then we can go to football games together. And like, And it's kind of like I'm feeling the same way in my town. Like I've been here for a really long time, and there are some really special people here for me, and I've helped a lot of people in my city heal with the work that I've done. And yet now it's time to move on to a new adventure, to create more community and a bigger community with a more diverse population. And it's really truly what I want and what I need to do for myself in order to be able to live, the life I wanted to live.
Right.
And, I think what you say is really important, in knowing like, why are you wanting to weed this garden, so to speak? My first wife, we were married for 8 years. And by the time I told her that I was leaving, because there was so much trauma and so much things, and even things I had no idea ever happened, she said to me, to my face, she's like, "Oh, now you're leaving when I finally start loving you." And I thought to myself, if this is loving me, I don't want it. I don't need to do it. And then I got into another relationship. And then in this last relationship, I actually said, I can't be with anybody until I fix the toxic things that I was trained to think about myself, the things that I was taught to shame, and fix the trauma and heal it that's within me. Because if I do that, I'm just then perpetuating more weeds in my garden, because I do believe we attract what we put out there. Like attracts like. I mean, you're not going to have like Mean Girls Club going up to Lovely Girls Club saying, "Hey, you want to be my friend?" No, it's going to be mean girl. Hey, let's go over here because we have something in common. And energetically, we attract those people. So I feel it's when we begin to weed, we can get so much clarity on our path. And we don't need to know the end result, right? You don't need to know what it's going to be like when you move to Vancouver Island. I don't need to know what it's going to be like when we move to Seattle. What I need to know is how I want to be in that space. And that will create my tribe. That will create the life I want to live. And then we start living that life. Right?
Well put. Exactly.
And it does feel bad at first. I mean,
it does, because, like your friends are going, "You're leaving me," and it's just like, I'm not leaving you, but I'm going to something. Right. So you can look at it through different lenses. And to me, it's, what am I going to, what am I making? And again, I've lived 56 years, and only in the last few years I can say I've actually lived it with intention. Otherwise I was just letting life happen to me, and now I'm creating it. And so that is like where you need to open up the envelope and look inside, right? Because it isn't about the external factors, the external people, your political, cultural, whatever it is bombarding us. Because I call those distractions.
Well, not always bombard us. They won't always be
bombarding us. Like, we got small bombs going on around us all the time. And so, some people put up a shield, right? Oh, I'm going to protect myself. But where does that get you, right? It's just a really slow progression towards death is all that is.
Right. You're just like hunkering down, waiting.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that, people, we do put up walls throughout our whole entire lives to protect ourselves, and to take those down and to be able to know, I'm moving this way now. If this, I know which way I'm going to move. It's just that knowing yourself. And I think that when you're able to know yourself so well, and people, if you've been listening to the show very long, you'll be like, oh, here she goes again on her little soapbox, but it's really the truth. It doesn't matter what's happening to externally. If I know how I want to be and interact in the world, I know that I trust myself to go in the direction I need to go.
Right.
And there's very little self-doubt.
I think, stepping off of that, I think what people fear is the vulnerability that comes with that. It's a responsibility. And, I can sort of look back now and look at different points of my life where I was vulnerable. And those are the points that actually I still remember. Those are the times that made me a better person, made me a critical thinker, made me more of a loving person. So the vulnerability, that word is probably one of my favorite words. And again, I wouldn't have said this 5 years ago. But going through the hell, get to the other side, yeah, it's worth it.
So I just want to encourage anyone who's listening or watching this, if you have felt this kind of tug on your heart or the slap across the forehead or, this big tug, whatever, and something in you is saying, hey, listen, it's time for us to do what we need to do. And I would just ask you to listen. And I would ask you to share, if you want to, in the comments with us, what that is, because we want to be here to support our community and beyond our own community, right? And that's what this podcast about radical visibility is. It's about sharing my stories and other people's stories about their path. And, Shauna is talking about how it just started for her, or it started being really evident for her 5 years ago, and she became ultra intentional about how she wants to live. And that in that intentionality becomes just this confidence and this clarity and this trust, this ultimate trust in self that can happen. So if you're struggling with that, feel free to reach out. Feel free to go and, purchase Shauna's book. It's on Amazon. Where else can they find it? Anywhere else besides Amazon?
Well, just from my website, but it's just Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. So her website will be linked below. So I guess my last question to you is, for those people that find themselves in this moments or in moments of tension, and it just keeps coming back and it just keeps coming back, what would you say to empower them?
That's a heavy responsibility, Rachel.
Hey, I do it all day long. Let's just go with it.
Everybody watching is just like, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. This is it. This is it. And you know what? It's very difficult to answer because it's so personal. Like, it's just so personal. And yet, we all face it. And if you can do it just once with something maybe that isn't as fearful, something smaller, start there. Whatever it is, maybe it's just changing your clothing style to meet more your personality. Maybe it's your hairstyle, right? Maybe
it's your shoes. I want to wear the red shoes instead of the black shoes. I mean, literally
radical right now. We're radically visible because of our hair. Like, this is my brand, and people tell me this too, right?
Yep.
And so it's just like, okay, cool. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to get a new hairstyle. And they're like, no, you can't. That's who you are. And so do I stand out in a crowd? Yeah, I do. And most people are like, because I have a very young energy, I guess, that most people pinpoint me for about 42, 43. Thank God we have young people who don't know how to tell age. I'm like, thank you very much. You're right. And I move on. Start small. Start small. I mean, I started really small, and I'll tell you really quickly, and you don't know this about me, but I have hobbyist at this point, hopefully published, but been writing lesbian erotica for a decade. And
it can be so good.
It is good.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I give it out to all my straight friends, and they're the ones that are like, so when do I get the next chapter? Kind of thing. I'm, oh, okay. Anyway, the point being is I shared it with one person. I hadn't told a soul, shared it with one person. And did I feel safe with her? Safe enough. But I did not know what was coming back. And then I shared again, and then I shared again. And about 2 years ago, before COVID, I was at a writer's circle, and I read one of my stories, my short stories. And the room was quiet. I'd never met these people in my life. And I put it out there, and I felt, my heart was probably out to here. But man, I felt so good afterwards. And I actually had 2 gentlemen come up to me after, and they're like, yours was the best story. And I'm like, cool.
I think it's really getting to know and being willing to do it over and over and over again.
It gets easier. It really does.
Yeah. And you reduce the nervous system response. And you tell your body actually that you're okay. I do believe it's not the mind before the body. I think it's the body before the mind, because the body is primal. It's meant to keep us alive. But like the same kind of thing was brought out to me. I was walking on the trail because I go walking with a friend, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this AIDS life cycle ride. I'm scared shitless, 545 miles over 7 days. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And she's like, Rachel, isn't that just how you live your life though? Like, she's like, isn't that just how you do it? You just say, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then you just make it happen. Like, aren't
Right.
you? Yeah. And so I had never really realized that until that moment and that reflection. And so when we each, just like you and I, are stepping into the things that there are still things that will scare us.
Oh yeah. Don't think I'm like this, made of steel person, because I'm
Nope.
as vulnerable as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I've just learned that it's okay. It's an okay space. Mm-hmm. You won't get hurt. Mm-hmm. And if you work with it wisely, you'll come out even way better. You will surprise yourself and those around you, because you will gain a confidence that you've never experienced before.
Yes. And
I say to younger people, like in their 30s and 40s, whatever, I'm like, get it now. Don't wait till when I got it in my 50s. You guys are getting it now. Here's what you need to do. You're 20, you're 30, you're 40, right? Like start the whole process a lot sooner.
Yep.
And our kids are like, they're way sooner, and social media has everything to do with that, than we ever were.
Right.
We didn't have those communications, and the world is a lot smaller. That's how you and I met.
I know, it's fabulous. And when people like, oh, and I hate being online. I'm like, oh Lord, I love being online. Like I get to meet people all over the world and get to build these relationships. And really, that's been one of the most important things to me now in my business and in my personal life, is building these super intentional relationships and creating the community that I have never had before. And so I love that you were willing to come on the show with me and talk about everything that we've talked about. If you've been watching the show or listening to the show, please make sure to give it a thumbs up or push the like button, and make sure to subscribe for more stories. And I'm sure that when the lesbian erotica comes out, Shauna's going to be back on the show.
We're going to do another one.
We're
going to have it all smoky and in dark, and music, some mood music. I actually found a lesbian artist on TikTok that I want to commission to do the drawings in my book. So again, it just makes it easy.
So I'll end this show like I end every single show. Please make sure to stay true to yourself, be kind to others, and always, always, always honor the wise one that is within you. I will see you all next time on the road to radical visibility. Talk to you then. Bye.